Good evening. Tonight, the President of the UN General Assembly in partnership
Persaingan untuk menjadi Sekretaris Jenderal Perserikatan Bangsa-Bangsa PBB berikutnya mulai berlangsung. 6 kandidat tampil dalam forum UN Town Hall di New York untuk menyampaikan visi mereka mengenai masa depan organisasi internasional tersebut. Para kandidat menyoroti perlunya perubahan besar di tubuh PBB di tengah meningkatnya konflik, krisis iklim, ketimpangan, dan menurunnya kepercayaan terhadap institusi global. Nama-nama yang tampil antara lain Rafael Grossi dari Argentina, Macky Sall dari Senegal, Michelle Bachelet dari Chili, Maria Fernanda Espinosa dari Ekuador, Rebeca Grynspan dari Kosta Rika, serta Carolyn Rodrigues Birkett dari Guyana. Sekjen PBB baru akan menggantikan Antonio Guterres yang masa jabatannya berakhir pada 31 Desember 2026 dan mulai menjabat pada 1 Januari 2027.
Historic high, where civilians are killed or injured in tragic numbers, inequality is rising, the climate crisis ever more urgent, and human rights are disregarded. Amidst all, there's lack of trust in institutions. So, in such challenging environment, what the world needs is a Secretary General with the best possible credentials. First, I think I have those.
Good afternoon. I think there are 3 reasons why I believe I am the right person to serve as the Secretary General of the United Nations. Number 1, because I have led this House. You elected me as President of the General Assembly, and in that role, I work with every member state. I listen to every voice. I build consensus even in the most difficult times. I spent Christmas and weekends sitting in negotiation rooms. I know how this institution works, the potential it has, and the challenges.
The coming selection of the next Secretary General could arguably be one of the most consequential in the 8 years of history of this great institution. The fact that we are living in a world where conflicts abound, where we are registering the highest number of armed conflict in the past 40 years, inequalities, problems in every single pillar, as we know them for the work of the organization. And that converges with a moment where profound doubts and skepticism about the ability of the United Nations to address effectively any of these problems. We see, and it's hard to see, that the UN is absent from the resolution of the most serious conflicts that we are going through. And we also see that we are not performing at the level we should be in other areas.
I am running because what we do here in this hall matters for people struggling to be free from want, from illness, and from fear. Because we, nations large and small, can uphold the Charter as our anchor in a turbulent world. Because we see drones cross boundaries that troops never did. Because we see the price of bread rise due to conflict far away. And because people are losing trust in the capacity of this organization to deliver peace in a more dangerous, more complex world.
The United Nations over these last 8 decades has served humanity well. But it is now at a crossroads. The proliferation of conflicts, lack of implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, a liquidity crisis, and an increase in humanitarian needs. Reform to make this organization more efficient, more effective, and more agile is now an imperative. But it is in times of challenges that opportunities emerge. And it's also for a moment like this that you need a Secretary General that is practical, who is realistic, and who is pragmatic.
Third, I bring continental experience through my chairmanship of the African Union and NEPAD. These responsibilities allowed me to address Africa's major challenges, including peace and security, human rights, and development. I also led the successful campaign for the AU to become a permanent member of the G20. Together, these experiences taught me to work with leaders from all regions, listen to every perspective.
Indeed, we have not been able to see the results we want to see in ending the conflict in the Strait of Hormuz. But I believe that there is space for the Secretary General when there is no agreement by members of the Security Council to present options that could possibly be utilized to dialogue with the conflict parties. I'm not oblivious to the geopolitical situation, but one thing the Secretary General does not have the luxury of doing, and that is not trying. The Secretary General must try, and I would be that Secretary General that would try, whether it is in Iran or in Haiti or in Sudan or in the DRC, to put those proposals to the Security Council if the tools at my disposal as Secretary General are not good enough.
On the Strait of Hormuz and on many great crises, we need more than ever a Security Council that functions in line with the provisions of the UN Charter. Because in reality, global security, peace and stability is something that is incumbent on the Security Council, and the lack of trust between the members today, particularly between the permanent members, is that means that crises go on without solutions being found.
The blockade of the Security Council is when the job of the Secretary General starts, because precisely is to open the possibilities for agreement, the job of the Secretary General. I was in a very similar situation when we brokered the agreement in the Black Sea initiative, precisely for the grain and the cereals be able to be traded and for prices in the world markets to drop and for people around the world not to suffer the consequences of the regional conflict. And we can do the same in the Strait of Hormuz. We should have engaged very early on with all the actors to try to open up, at least for the benefit of the people that are suffering far away from the situation in the Strait of Hormuz that is affecting everybody.
I think the most important thing is that the Secretary General cannot give up. He has to insist and try and see different strategies and help member states to identify different strategies so peace can be brought to the people. At the same time, he has to ensure that the organization provides humanitarian assistance and support victims of those conflicts so we have no lives lost.
The metric of the success of the Security Council in a world like the one we are having is certainly not the amount of resolutions that can be adopted. We all assume that there is fragmentation, so the absence of an agreed resolution, one could say, is the most predictable outcome of these situations.
Well, I think the conflict that you described shows us the current nature of conflicts. They are regional, they have spillover effects, and I think that the UN should mobilize the muscle of the UN to look at the spillover effects and support countries that are sometimes thousands of miles away because of the increase in energy prices, in food prices, the disruption of supply chains. So that is a role for the Secretary General.
Yes, the Secretary General is the Chief Administrative Officer of the organization, but there are certain tools at the disposal of the Secretary General: mediation, good offices, appointing special representatives. There are certain things that you can do. Of course, there are times when that might not be enough, and you would have to depend on the Security Council. But if, for example, a veto is going to bring immense suffering, then I will want to speak with that member state to let them know what the consequences of that will be.
I think the first thing that the Secretary General has to do, if I may, regardless of the fact that it is a permanent member or not a permanent member, any member of the United States triggering a war or using aggression is serious enough for the Secretary General to step in. And what we need to do is to restore this credibility of the UN as a valid interlocutor, and then use the tools at hand, which are many.
5 years from now, I would like nobody to ask me again, where is the UN? That will be my indicator. I would like to see a UN that is back at the table in the scenarios of conflict. I would like to see a UN that has rebuilt trust, but has used that trust to deliver results on the ground. A more united, more effective, more agile UN.
The UN must be more present, especially in the peace and security arena, that we would have moved from where we are today to a UN that is delivering better in peace and security, both on the prevention side and ending of conflict side. And also that we would have seen that a woman as Secretary General can deliver working with member states. But I also want to speak about AI, because I believe that AI can be a force for good. But young people are concerned that AI will take their jobs, will kill their creativity. And so this UN, the wisdom of the 193, I believe, can come together to have an AI governance framework that can balance innovation and not stifle creativity, and at the same time, the concerns of our people.
That generation, 80 years ago, had differences, but it understood that to avoid the scourge and the misery that had affected them twice in one generation, they had to do something different. We are in a difficult position now, and it is not impossible that we will reach the point that cancelling out each other will be the rule. And for that, there is still one UN. Let's not forget that.
I think that the main challenge for we the people is the belief that might is right, is the weakening of international law and humanitarian law, is the erosion of the belief what founded this organization, that was the great powers thought that they needed restraint. That's why they built an international organization, an organization where they will exert restraint, not only power. And we need to bring back that idea to the UN.
Statements, speeches, good intentions, we all know that. We've been there before, and it's not going to work. It didn't work before, it will not work now. We will have to have brutal honesty to recognize what we can do. And that will start with a different dialogue, a new deal, if I may use the expression, between the Secretary General and member states.
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.